Good afternoon. I'd like to begin by welcoming those members of the public and press who have joined us today for this meeting of the Cabinet. We have several important issues to consider at today's Cabinet meeting, but before we begin the formal meeting, I have some housekeeping information that I would like to share. First, please be aware that this meeting is being live streamed and that a recording of the meeting will be available to view on the Council's website. Second, the Council does allow filming and photography at its public meetings, so please feel free to take pictures and to post to social media during the meeting. Third, can I ask that everyone turns their mobile phones to silent or vibrate whilst the meeting is taking place? And finally, in terms of housekeeping notices, there is no fire alarm test scheduled for today, so if the alarm sounds, please leave by the nearest marked fire exit and proceed directly to the fire assembly point in Charles Swift Square in that direction, opposite the multi-storey car park. We are now going to move to the formal agenda of the meeting. Agenda item number 1 is apologies for absence. Pippa, have any apologies for absence been received, please?
Apologies have been received from Councillors Bisbee, Boyce and Wigan.
Thank you very much, Pippa. We now move on to agenda item number 2, which is declarations of interest. Does any member wish to declare any disclosable pecuniary interest or non-statutory disclosable interest? Councillor Hogg.
Hello. As usual, for these things, when we have items pertaining to Peterborough Limited, I have to put my hand up and talk about something that's already on my register of interests. But I will have to excuse myself towards the end of the meeting for those 2 items.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hogg. Agenda item number 3 is to approve the minutes of our previous Cabinet meeting. The minutes of the previous meeting will be available at the next meeting for Cabinet. I just want to make members aware of that. For anyone wishing to view the previous meeting, it is available on the Council's YouTube page. Moving on to agenda item number 4, we have petitions and public questions. We've received 6 public questions for today's meeting, all in relation to item number 11, the Ken Stimson academisation on the agenda. In accordance with paragraph 2.2 of the Council's public speaking scheme, I'm exercising my discretion to extend the period of time allowed for public questions beyond the allocated 15 minutes to ensure that all questions can be accommodated at this meeting. So I just need to make that clear. Now, our first member of the public who I'd like to invite to the front is Mr. Ed Murphy. Would you like to read out your first question, Mr. Murphy, as submitted? Thank you. You have 3 minutes, Mr. Murphy. And please switch on your microphone, which I'm sure you're aware of, using the middle button when you're ready to begin. Thank you.
There we go. Thank you very much. Hopefully I've got the right question. So you probably had some guidance from officers how to answer these questions, but let's not name any individuals. Perhaps that's the best way to do it. So I'd like to ask the first question to the leader, I presume. Yeah, so was there a promise made on the transfer of the field to the school a number of years ago? I'm wondering whether it was made around about the time the fencing was purchased. If a promise was made, when was this made and by whom?
Thank you, Mr. Murphy, for asking a question. I'd like to answer it, if that's okay. So I'd like to categorically state that no promises were made between the Council and the Academy. Okay, so I'm going to repeat that. No promises were made between the Council and the Academy. However, prior to the current temporary agreement being put in place, there was a range of options that were discussed from 2020 to 2023 between the Council and the Academy in relation to the academisation of Ken Stimson. No firm decisions could be made pending the outcome of the Section 77 application from the Department of Education. I hope that answers your question. Do you have a supplementary, though?
Yeah. Look, with everything that's been going on, I know you talk about transparency, but we're concerned that there isn't, and it's still not clear who did what with the fence and the promise. Many folk believe a promise was made. Is it not appropriate now to pause everything till we've got some more clarity, say for up to 6 months?
Thanks again, Mr. Murphy. Now, in terms of promises that were retrospectively made, I note and acknowledge all the emails that have been sent to me in relation to this retrospective reference to the promises that were made. All I can say to you is that this matter has gone on for 7 years. At the heart of it, we have the sentiments that have been expressed and the concerns that have been expressed, not only by the residents, the group Save Warrington Field, the councillors, also the school, and the school's population, in the way of those residents that actually have children at the school. We are here at Cabinet today to make a decision around those recommendations. Because of the length of time it has followed 7 years in these negotiations, we have to make a decision around this one way or the other. I hear what you're saying. There is no easy way around this. Today, we really are deciding on a compromise. Now, you did have a second question.
Yeah.
Would you like to ask it?
Yeah, second question is quite a short one. I note that you didn't tell me who bought the fence. When the fencing was purchased, when there was no community agreement in place, so why was the fencing purchased when there was no community use agreement in place and it did not, seems, meet the planning requirements of this authority?
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. So, in answer to your question, the fencing was originally purchased following the successful planning application that was permitted in March 2020. And it was ordered as per the specification in that application in 2020. And the original community use agreement fell away in 1998 that took place. However, the school was then within the council's ownership, and therefore a community use agreement was not required. However, at the point of academisation in 2023, a temporary community use agreement was entered into pending the outcome of the lease. Would you like to ask a supplementary?
Yes, thank you very much for that explanation. So the officers that, it's been in the media, but again, I look at the chief executive, so maybe we don't name them because there is a legal investigation underway, are the same officers that have been named and are probably linked with the police investigation as well and under arrest. No charges have been brought. They're the same officers. In view of that, really, should we not hold things until the investigation has run its course? And also, has any of this fencing been used anywhere else at all?
So I think it's really important to understand that any case that relates to a police investigation doesn't really involve this matter at all. So that would be quite apparently those cases that are within the public domain do not relate to this matter that we are dealing with at this point in time. Do we have any evidence of foul play in relation to Kemp, Stimson academisation and all the things that you've brought to our attention? No, we don't. I mean, if there's anything from a legal point of view to answer your question that I haven't alluded or unable to answer, I'm more than happy to bring our legal officer on board to give you a more firmed up answer. I've just been informed by the legal officer that the fence hasn't been used for anything else. It's in storage. Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Thank you. Okay. I've now been informed that Ms. Mbarchian is unable to make the meeting today. Therefore, I'm going to ask Jan Forster that you would like to ask the question. Would you like to? I'd like to invite you to the front. Thank you. I welcome you. Thank you very much for attending today's Cabinet meeting. Anyone where you feel comfortable. You've got 3 minutes to ask your question, and please switch on your microphone. Thank you very much. Yes, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Yeah.
Right, this is a question from Nari Ambarkian. An FOI request has revealed an email from a senior person at Four Seas Academy Trust relating to the issue of Warrington Fields. It was sent in October 2025 to a senior member of the Cabinet. In it, the person offers to act as a sounding board and offer some thoughts, saying they would be more than happy to offer that support. They also say, we happen to be on the same side of this particular issue of Warrington Field. Is the Cabinet confident that their impartiality has been maintained throughout this decision-making process, and that equal access and communication has been received by all parties concerned?
Thank you very much, Ms Forster, for your question. The answer that I've got to that is, although the question refers to offers to meet and act as a sounding board, it is not clear what meetings, if any, may have taken place. In any event, it is important to remember that Cabinet members are entitled to participate in discussions relating to community issues, such as this one, but that does not mean that they lack impartiality in their decision-making. Indeed, there are many Cabinet members that have also met members of the public who are against the decision that we have made retrospectively and that may be made today. Cabinet members can lawfully listen to community views, they can attend meetings, they can express initial opinions as long as they maintain an open mind and do not predetermine an issue that comes before them in their executive decision-making capacity. The members of the Cabinet are well aware of this position and are satisfied that they're not prejudiced or conflicted in their decision-making on this issue. All councillors have a legal obligation, however, to disclose any matter that gives rise to an actual or potential conflict of interest. And issues in relation to equal access, presumably in relation to the fields and communication with relevant parties, are separate to the issue of impartiality and or conflict in Cabinet decision-making. But you can ask a supplementary question if you choose to.
Okay. I think I'll ask Nari's second question, if that's all right.
Of course.
So this is about community use of the fields. The community use agreement, circulated with the Cabinet papers, confirms the plan is for community access to be solely pre-booked and charged for formal sports matches. This is a very small section of the local community, and many teams who use the area at weekends are not local. Residents who are not sports team members will lose a huge area which they've enjoyed for 45 years. How can they be given community access, for example, during the long summer holidays when the school will not be using the area? Four Seas CEO has previously indicated at a Cabinet meeting that it hoped to make arrangements with local football teams and Cricket East. Will the community use agreement apply to any users with whom the school contracts?
Thank you, Ms Forster, for asking Ms Ambarchian's second question. And the response that I have to that is that the community use agreement sets out the position between the council and the Academy Trust. And if in future there is a wish to change the arrangement, that will be a matter to be negotiated between the parties. Now, the council itself can't comment on the previous statement made by the CEO of the Academy Trust in relation to the summer holidays. If the Academy Trust wishes to vary the arrangements over the summer holiday period, that council will be happy to consider the implications of that. But just to add, I think that there is a huge exercise that has to be undertaken around mediating and looking at variations of that community use agreement after the decision is made today.
Okay.
Do you have a supplementary at all?
Can you just clarify, are you saying the community use agreement won't be finalised until after the lease is finalised?
I can, in terms of the timelines on that, I can refer to the legal officer. The community use agreement, I've been told, will be finalised after the lease arrangement.
Okay, so we won't know what that is till the lease is finalised.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Our next member of the public is Mr. Malcolm Rash. Mr. Rash, thank you very much for attending today's Cabinet meeting. I'd like to invite you to ask your question and read it out as submitted. You've got 3 minutes, please. Please switch on your microphone.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I have some questions about the costs of the fencing. Paragraph 2.3 of the briefing papers states that the fence is already owned by the council. We assume that this is the fence purchased in 2020. However, that fence was 2.4 metres high and surrounded an area described as equivalent to 2.5 football pitches. The proposed fenced area now is 2 metres high and will surround an area equivalent to 7 or 8 football pitches. How can it possibly be reused?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Ash. Now, the original fencing that was purchased, as you said very rightly, was 2.4 metres high. And the quantity that was ordered at the time in 2020 was 575.4 metres, plus 2 heavy-duty personnel gates and 2 sets of heavy-duty vehicular gates. However, it was agreed to reduce the fence height to 2 metres, and the most cost-effective way was to arrange for the fabricators to cut down the original fencing that was purchased to 2 metres to enable it to be reused. That's the first thing. The second thing is approximately 200 metres of additional fencing is now required, of which has been quoted in the region of £10,000. The price difference is due to the new specification of 2 metres and not 2.4 metres, with no further pedestrian or vehicular gates access that is required. Happy for you to ask a supplementary.
There was the second part of my question was, there are also seriously odd questions about the quoted price for additional fencing of £10,000. We were given a price 6 years ago of £73,000 for the original, much shorter, higher fence, which was reduced to £57,000 as the fence was not then erected. How can the additional fence be purchased for £10,000?
So I think I'll refer you back to it. First of all, I'd like to really apologise to you because I realise you hadn't finished the first part of your question, so please accept my inherent apologies for that. I should have allowed you to.
And it carries on. And what provision is there for installation costs? Finally, 4Cs offered at a 2024 Cabinet meeting to pay half the then stated cost of £80,000, i.e. they offered to pay £40,000. But this appears now to have been reduced to £20,000. Why?
Thank you very much.
And finally, what is the true total cost of the entire fence?
Thank you. So I'll refer you to the second part of my question that attempted to answer your question in its entirety. So 200 metres of additional fencing is now required, which has been quoted in the region of £10,000. So it's been quoted in the region of £10,000, which is a discernible difference to what it was before. That could be because we have taken fabricators and cut it down to the original from 2.4 metres to 2 metres. So we would have saved a cost on that as well. And 2 metres is actually a standard fence size for 200 metres as well. So I believe that when the decision is made today, we will then seek a number of contractors to gain various quotes from, and this is why an average price has been given and nothing that is affirmative at this moment in time, but a final cost will come out when that exercise is embarked upon, when it goes out to tender, to see what the installation is going to be, and I won't have those figures to hand, but happy to follow up with a written response.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ash. Thank you very much for asking your question. Thank you. I now have Ms. Jan Forster, again asking their own question. Thank you.
Sorry, it's me again.
No, it's absolutely fine.
So this is my question.
Thank you.
So my question is about item 7 on the briefing papers that you've all received. It's headed Equalities and talks about how people will be disadvantaged by not having access to the main field. I'd like to know how the Cabinet think that a narrow 10 to 15 metre strip of land, bordered on one side by a 2 metre weld mesh fence, and on the other side by a hedge or bushes, qualifies as an open space for public and amenity use, and how it could possibly have a positive effect on the health and well-being of regular users.
Thank you. I hope I've allowed you to finish your question, first of all.
You have.
Thank you. So the equalities assessment does not rely on the retained strip alone to provide recreational or amenity benefits that you've described. Now, the assessment considers the overall availability of land for public recreation, including the wider access through the community use agreement, which we've said will be finalised after the lease has been finalised, for the school field outside school hours. The potential equalities impacts are mitigated because public and amenity access is being retained through the combination of the retained land and the community use of the school field. For these reasons, the width of the retained land does not result in an adverse equalities impact. It should also be noted that the retained land is available for unrestricted public access and will allow users an opportunity to walk and/or run, both of which contribute positively to health and well-being. But I don't want to end that note on coming across as being what possibly may appear to be condescending. Now, the width of 10 metres is the equivalent of the width of Burgess Boulevard. That's the posterior aspect that is lined, is adjacent to the tree line. Then you have 15 metres along the perimeter of one aspect that is adjacent to the field. The front-facing aspect, there is actually 20 metres. So 10 metres is the width of Burgess Boulevard. The 20-metre part of land is actually twice the width of Burgess Boulevard. And I just want to give the perception of space. Again, I'm going to revert back to what I've said in the beginning. It's a compromise. And I am acknowledging of the fact that this won't meet the expectation level of the campaigners for the field, but it's the best possible outcome that we could have secured at this moment in time. So that's what I'd like to say. But do you have a supplementary question, Ms. Forster?
I do have a supplementary question, yes. Warrington Neighbourhood Council did a survey a while ago of local residents, and 88% of local residents said these fields were important to them. And you talked about the proposed community use agreement as helping people to get access. This is maybe 1 or 2% of residents who are members of local sports club who will benefit from the community use agreement. So the other 98 to 99% of the community who've been able to access this area for 44 years are now only going to be offered these narrow corridors, sandwiched between this ugly fence and a tree or scrub belt. It's been described as 4Cs offering to share a large pizza with the community and eating all the middle bits themselves and leaving only the slightly burnt crusts that they don't want. And these are bits they don't actually want around the edge. In the case of the field, which is often waterlogged, and with hedges and tree belts that require maintenance and are protected under the neighbourhood plan. So they probably don't want those bits, and they're useless to the community. You say people can walk or run around them. Yeah, well, when they're not waterlogged. A former head teacher of the school pointed out they're a recipe for antisocial behaviour to have narrow corridors, fenced-off walkways with 90-degree dead turns, and limited entry and exit points, and no lighting. Since the school has maintained previously that around 50% of the area they are now trying to claim meets their sport curriculum needs, why can't you propose that the total area of these corridors, estimated at
Sorry, we are
they then
running
have
over.
79% of the field.
Sorry to interrupt, we are running over time.
Can I just finish the sentence?
Yes, of course.
The total area of these corridors are amalgamated into some coherent, usable space for the community. Because these corridors are actually a lot narrower than stated, as they have tree belts on them and hedges which are included in the measurements. So why could those spaces not be amalgamated into something usable?
I'm slightly confused by the premise of the question. So you're asking why the spaces that have been left behind could not be amalgamated into
Yes.
something useful?
Yes.
I mean, today, the decision that we're going to be making is around the recommendations of putting the fence up and obviously the lease arrangements. That is something that we can definitely look at later on. And actually, if the decision is made by Cabinet today to install the fence, I think that this is something that you've brought to our attention that we can definitely have a look into.
All right, okay.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to thank the public for their questions, and this then now closes the agenda item of public petitions and questions. However, I noticed that the agenda item was number 13, and I do not wish for members of the public to stay until and wait for that agenda item, so I've allowed at my discretion that we bring forward the agenda item relating to the Ken Stimson academisation so as not to cause any inconvenience to the public who are having to wait to hear this agenda item. So, given the high level of interest as well that this generates, I propose that we move straight to that item, but in order to do so, I will need to move this as a recommendation. So, do I have a seconder? I'll take all of you. I think all of you want to. Thank you. Thank you very much. That is agreed. So I know that there is an exempt appendix attached to this report, but should a member wish to discuss any information contained within the exempt appendix, the public will be asked to leave. I don't see that happening, but in the eventuality of that happening, whilst this discussion takes place in accordance with Schedule 12A, Part 1 of the Local Government Act 1972, as amended. Now, the items in this agenda will remain numbered as published, so that we are now moving to item 11 as agreed. We will then move back to item 5 and continue with the agenda as planned. So once this item has concluded, we will take a 10-minute adjournment for any members of the public wishing to leave, should you wish to do so, although you are more than welcome to remain for the rest of the Cabinet meeting. So agenda item number 11, which has now been moved, has become the Ken Stimson Academisation Judicial Review update. This item can be found on pages 85 to 148 of the agenda. Councillor Katie Cole, Cabinet Member for Children's Services. Please can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader, and through you. Before I introduce this, I just want to say thank you to the ward councillors. I want to say thank you to Save Warrington Fields. And I want to say thank you to the young people that we heard at the previous meeting. Your views are, I have taken them on board, I have listened, and I'm now going to introduce this item. The report before you today contains a number of recommendations that aim to reach a resolution on an issue that this council has been grappling with for way too long. As I have said many times before, I can see why countless administrations before us have failed to find a way forward, because there is no solution that pleases everybody. Today we have an opportunity to move forward, and the recommendations before you offer more of a compromise than has been offered before. They offer more space for community access that has been offered previously, thanks to an agreement with the Academy Trust to provide an unfenced perimeter that measures 10 metres to the eastern boundary, 15.5 metres to the south, and 20 metres to the west. This space will remain accessible to the public for the duration of the lease. A further recommendation is for the Council to enter into a new community use agreement with the Four Seas Academy Trust, governing the community use of the playing fields outside of school hours. This will give residents access to space which can be booked to play sports at agreed times after school and at weekends, and is something I would like to see concluded as quickly as possible for the residents of this area. It must be remembered that the council has responsibilities as landowner, but also as the local education authority. With that comes a requirement for us to ensure that children have access to outdoor space and that they can access that space safely. We must move forward so that the children of Ken Stimson Academy can begin using this space once again. I would also like to make it clear that we as an administration and council officers have fully considered the views of residents and all parties interested in this area. Residents' views must also be balanced with the need to resolve the judicial review claim against the council, and the report recommendations provide such a resolution. I ask all at Cabinet to consider the recommendations before you today carefully, so that we can finally put this issue to bed and achieve an outcome that ensures Ken Stimson Academy pupils can once again use the space to which they are entitled, and residents have good access and are able to access the space when they wish to use it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. I'd like to now invite the ward councillors from Warrington to address the Cabinet. And I'm going to begin with Councillor John Fox. Councillor John Fox, do begin when you're ready, and thank you for coming to Cabinet today.
I would like to place on record that, that this Cabinet, along with all councillors who have served during the past 7 years whilst this matter has been going on, will all be aware that Warrington Ward councillors have not been inactive, not indecisive or sitting on the fence, despite suggestions to the contrary by some. Throughout this period, we have maintained a consistent and principled position. We have supported the outcome of the 2021 public consultation, during which all relevant stakeholders, including the school, Save Warrington Fields, local residents and councillors, reached together a considered and balanced compromise. That agreement proposed the fencing of secure area equivalent to approximately 4 football pitches. We have continued to support that position without any deviation at any time. Shortly after the consultation, Judy and I were approached by the then Cabinet Member of Education and Children's Services and asked to provide our views on a proposal to fence the entire field. We made our position unequivocally clear. We strongly opposed such a proposal and advised that it would likely result in significant public opposition, particularly given that a compromise had only recently been reached. Following that discussion, we were not consulted further. We had no direct involvement in subsequent negotiations with the school, and were only made aware at a later stage that a recommendation had been advanced to fence a substantially larger area than originally agreed. As ward councillors, we were therefore excluded from the process and were not kept informed of key developments. In light of this, we seek clarification of the following points. Why were ward councillors excluded from these negotiations? Which councillors and officers were involved in the negotiations? Were formal records or minutes maintained? What specific agreements were reached? Was any agreement entered into, and if so, when and by whom? These questions are essential to ensuring transparency, accountability, particularly in the view that concerns raised by members of the public. However, we also consider it's appropriate this matter be deferred and subject to debate at full council, rather than determined solely at cabinet level. There is a clear perception among both councillors and residents that the matter is being progressed at pace ahead of the May elections, rather than being afforded the level of scrutiny it warrants. Warrington and the wider city require sufficient time, openness and meaningful public engagement before any final decisions are made. A number of key issues remain unresolved, including public access to the site under the user agreement, the future of the library, the future of the sports centre, continued access to the mugger, which is on public land and is paid for by the public, the total cost to the taxpayers of the proposed fencing, potential parking implications, particularly if restrictions are introduced by Tesco's in their own car park. These matters must be fully addressed prior to the implementation of any decision. There is no necessity to proceed with the decision at this stage, particularly in advance of comprehensive consultation with all the relevant community groups. Proper stakeholders, scrutiny of the original relevant community groups, proper scrutiny of the original decision-making process and engagement with all stakeholders, not solely the Academy. We therefore respectfully request that this decision be deferred. Such an approach would demonstrate a commitment of transparency, accountability, true leadership and sound decision-making in the interests of the community we all serve. It is essential that the Council demonstrates openness and a willingness to engage constructively, as failure to do so may result in long-term consequences that could prove difficult to resolve. It is vital that the views of Warrington residents are fully considered before any final determination is made. Finally, we respectfully seek legal advice in relation to today's possible Cabinet's decision. Specifically, do ward councillors have any legal means to block, challenge or prevent the implications of this decision? And if so, what are the proceedings to follow? Thank you, and please think hard before you vote today, as if we get this wrong, the residents of Warrington will be the ones who will suffer in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. You've asked a number of questions. First of all, I want to note on record your journey in this, and in my sum up, I will make reference to that. The fact that you haven't sat on the fence, but I will allude to that in my sum up. I'd like to thank you for your advocacy on behalf of your residents. I think that it's really important that that is acknowledged. In relation to some of the questions around the community use agreement, a consultation will be embarked upon. Today's agenda item is around decision of the judicial review that has brought us here today to address the agenda item. and also in relation to some of the other legal questions that you've asked retrospectively, the outcome of the consultation that took place, which cabinet members were involved, which officers were involved. I have asked the legal officer to provide you a response in writing on that. Also, I think that the legal officer may want to respond to some of the latter points that you've raised in your question. Would that be okay? Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you, Councillor Fox, for your question. I want to assure you that there is going to be no impact on the sports centre. There'll be no impact on the library. There'll be no impact on the mugger. And I also want to ensure you that ward members will have full involvement in any community use agreement that is developed and written. It's really important that your views are included in that. Thank you.
I'd like to ask the legal officer to respond to some of the points that you've raised. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and through you, thank you, Councillor Fox, for your question. As it's been mentioned earlier, this matter has been ongoing for several years. Matters have more recently come to a head with the advent of the judicial review claim against the council. The council has a legal obligation to transfer the land to the school following academisation in 2023. The land is educational land. There is nothing more that you or fellow ward councillors can do in respect of that legal obligation. And if I may add, nor does Mrs. Fox, Councillor Mrs. Fox, in her capacity as civic mayor of the council. I hope that assists you with your final question.
Yes, Councillor Fox.
Yeah, thank you. So you're actually saying that the ward council cannot block the decision made today?
Can I respond to that? So, is it Mr. Murphy? Okay, I will come on to your point, Mr. Murphy, in a moment. I will come on to your point in a moment, Mr. Murphy. So, for your supplementary question, Councillor Fox, in short, the answer is no. In relation to Mr. Murphy's point, Mr. Murphy's point is misconceived. The mayor has no vires, no power to block this decision utilising the forum of a full council. The history of this matter shows that to be the case when this matter last went to full council. I hope that helps you, Mr. Murphy. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that I'm not sure that we made clear that this decision today won't be the subject to call in, because it already had come from a decision that came out of a previous full council. So that is the reason why. But thank you very much, Councillor Fox, and we will follow up those points in writing. I'd like to now invite Councillor Judy Fox to address the Cabinet and ask any questions. Or would it be yourself? Okay, I've got it different on the running order. I'm more than happy for you, Councillor Sarah Hillier, to say what you would like to say and ask any questions. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for allowing us to speak. On Saturday, 300 Warrington residents of all ages turned up to protest the settlement agreement being put before you today. These residents may all have started out with varying opinions about how much of the field should be fenced for school use. Some felt none, some 2.5 pitches, some 4. But they all coalesced around the proposal put forward by Councillor Hogg and democratically agreed by full council for an area equivalent to 6 pitches. This was compromise. What we have seen from a Four Seas mat is absolute intransigence and a refusal to compromise. We are now being told 20-metre boundary one side, 10 another, 15 another is their compromise. This is not a compromise. This has always been their intention because that puts the trees and the bushes bordering the fields out of the fences and makes the responsibility for their upkeep the council's, not theirs. The new issues before you today are how is the fencing being funded, how are the legal fees being met, the community use agreement and the apparent gift of other public land that was covered by the covenant. The public land that has been gifted to the school is the land that has AstroTurf pitches and the access to our council-owned mugger and strips of land to the rear of the school. This needs to be dealt with before anything is signed off. The school has built on this public land protected by covenant without permission or compensation to the community. The community use agreement before you appears to also offer no concessions from the Four Seas MAT. Warrington residents will only be able to access the fields out of school time by booking and paying a commercially set rate, even out of school, after school, weekends, school holidays. The children of Warrington won't be able to access the fields for a kickabout unless they can book for a £30 to £40 a session. This is a commercialisation of our public space. It's hard to see how this benefits children. Children are children 52 weeks a year, not just the 39 weeks in a school year. There was an opportunity to negotiate full free access to Warrington children if this was really about the children. We don't understand why there has been a rush to deal with the disposal notice at the same time as the lease on the fields. We don't understand why there is a rush to lease the fields when the building lease can't be settled. We don't understand why we are losing yet more amenity. And it simply can't be right to lose access to our mugger. We surely aren't supposed to book to use an access route. We would strongly urge the council to pause and sort out the disposal notice and the community use agreement properly. We would also urge the Cabinet not to fund the fence and definitely not to fund the Four Seas MAT's legal costs. We were told that negotiations with Four Seas would take place to try to settle this and stop their judicial review application to avoid incurring more legal costs. So why on earth would we then give them everything they want and more? How is this fair to the council and how is it fair to the residents of Warrington? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hillier, for that heartfelt statement and also reflecting what this journey has brought about and your views on it. They are noted. I think what I've been advised is that you may have been responded to, the ward councils have been responded to in relation to these concerns before. However, if not, please do let us know. If that is the case, we will respond. And obviously the points raised do not prevent us from decision making this evening because the agenda item again is around the judicial review decision making. I'm not sure. I'll bring the monitoring officer in to add any other additional points that you have raised as well and see if the Cabinet member wants to respond to.
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So not a huge amount to add, save for that these questions have been raised. I'm grateful for them to be raised by ward members. They have been responded to. If there is further clarity that's sought, I'm happy to provide that clarity relative to the answers that have already been provided. The points raised do not, I agree, prevent decision making by this Cabinet Committee this evening.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Sarah. Sorry, thank you, Councillor Hill, for your question. I just want to say and reiterate the point I made to Councillor Fox, that the details of the community use agreement will involve the views of the ward councillors. So when that community use agreement is being written, things in terms of costings, financing or paying for slots within the community use agreement and costs, so that all of your Warrington residents can have access to that space, is all up for negotiation. So it's important that your views are put into that community use agreement, and it's something that I will continue to make sure that you get your voice in that community use agreement decision making. Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Also like to add that I think that it has been alluded to, and it's really important to acknowledge the fact that the compromise that came out of full council was the reason why the judicial review was presented to us in the first place. But all of the points that you have raised, Councillor Fox, Councillor Hillier so far, that isn't being agreed on at this meeting. So that is subject to further negotiations, consultation with yourself and the residents indeed, which will be an exercise that takes place after today's Cabinet decision. So I'd like to thank you for raising those queries and those points as well. Councillor Judy Fox, I'd like to invite you to speak and ask any questions.
Thank you, Leader. I'm going to actually say this. I know it's been discussed just a few moments ago from somebody in the audience. But first and foremost, do I, as the Mayor of Peterborough, have discretionary powers to ask this Cabinet to defer their decision to full council so this can be delayed until all our questions are answered? As I would be willing to lift standing orders to do this, as I believe it would be the right thing to do if, of course, I have the powers to do so.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. With the greatest of respect, and I have the greatest of respect towards you, because of your civic role, and this is an executive function here at Cabinet, unfortunately you'd be unable to exercise your discretion to do that. I understand the place that you're coming from. Would I be offended if you were able to do so? Absolutely not. But unfortunately, you're unable to exercise your powers to make that decision, and I do apologise.
Thank you. I'll carry on now, thank you. I would like to echo all that my fellow ward councillors have said today, and I would like to add a little more by saying that I am very angry about how the 3 ward councillors of Warrington have been kept out of the discussions about the fields, especially at the beginning after the public consultation took place. Now start page 100, Annex 1. Community value and long-term dual use of the playing field. This has been by permission rather than as of right. The land will continue to be available for use by the wider public under the terms and conditions of the community use agreement. Now it looks like the community use agreement is being changed to only community use for sports clubs, football and community organisations, where a booking system is going to be used. And other than that, the gate will be locked after school hours and not open to the public, as it was agreed before. My question is, where are all the people who are going to use this facility going to park? Page 143, repairs and maintenance. 5.2, the council agrees to arrange and pay for the cutting of the grass on the land as often as it is reasonably necessary. 5.3, the council will arrange and pay for the cutting of the grass and the line markings on the sports facilities and recoup the equivalent cost from Peterborough Limited. My question is, how does that work and are we paying for it? Page 92, fencing. 2.30, the fence will be 2 metres high. I know this has already been discussed, but I really feel I want to do it again. And is already owned by the council. This is within permitted development rights, and so further permissions are required. My question is, I was under the impression that some time ago the council purchased fencing that was 2.4 metres high before the height restriction was changed to 2 metres to save going to planning for a decision. What happened to this fencing that was originally purchased for the field? And as it is higher than 2 metres, surely that then has to go back to planning for approval. And as far as I can remember, this 2.4 metres fence was purchased in 2019 after agreed at planning, and do obviously correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you. Regarding the AstroTurf pitches and the mugger, which is council property, why has the academy been given, rather than lease, the AstroTurf pitches and the access path that leads to the mugger and the AstroTurf pitches? Why have this public land just been given to the academy And is the access to the mugger, which I quote, belongs to the council, going to be diverted as the public should still be able to use these facilities? Where is the community user agreement for this? Now we find out that we are going to have a second lease for the sports hall and the library. Why are we not waiting to finalise them all together? What is the hurry? Excuse me a moment. After seeing so many residents of Wellington turn up last Saturday on the field that are so passionate about their open green space, and when you actually stand on the field, you will then appreciate how huge this piece of land is, and is far too much land to give away for the size of the students at Stimson Academy. Also, what really concerns all of the ward councillors is that all community-involved organisations for and against a fenced area the size of 4 football pitches came together in a suitable compromise on what made the academy go totally against not only the decision of the public consultation but the Wellington community as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fox. I think you do allude to many points. Now, regarding the community use agreement, I think that this Cabinet has a real opportunity here to make sure, because that is not being decided on today, and we've made that clear. But that's a real opportunity to engage with yourselves and the residents to make sure that we get this right. You know, and we will be embarking upon that opportunity. It's very, very important. You also refer to the fact that, you know, a consultation took place and that you were disenfranchised from a process in retrospective years. I am not sure why that happened, but what I will say is that under my leadership and under this Cabinet, you will agree that we have asked the monitoring officer to engage with you at every step of the way. Any information that has been given to us, we've advised our legal officer to engage with yourselves as ward members to make you informed as well. I think that's been one of the parts of the process that we've had to. In relation to the AstroTurf, the mugger in the library, Councillor Cole has alluded to the fact that that's not affected by the decision today. Again, an opportunity for us to really make sure that we maximise the public use of that. But it hasn't been affected anyway, just to let you know. I am going to repeat the response that I gave to Mr. Rash, to yourself in relation to the height of the fence, to make sure that we hear that information again. So the original fencing that was purchased was 2.4 metres high. Then the use of fabricators have taken place to cut that down to 2 metres. And as I said, there are 2 heavy-duty personnel gates and 2 sets of heavy-duty vehicular gates. And the cost-effective way to arrange for the fabricators to cut down the originally purchased fence to 2 metres was enabling that original fence that was purchased to be reused. So that's how we've achieved an element of cost-effectiveness to it. Approximately 200 metres of additional fencing is required, which has been quoted again, average in the region of £10,000. And the price difference is due to the specification of 2 metres and not 2.4 metres, with no further pedestrian or vehicular gates required. Now, I would like to rectify what I said in relation to Mr. Rash around the tendering process. So I have been informed that tendering is not required because the original contractors that valued that we had a valuation on are going to be embarking upon that. So it's not required because the original contractor is considered to be the most cost effective, with final costs that will transpire at a later date. I don't know if Councillor Cole wants to add anything at all.
Thank you, Leader. I'm going to ask John Gregg, the DCS, whether he can contact the school and ask for, in writing, for Save Wellington Fields and ward councillors, clarity regarding the mugger, clarity regarding the sports centre, and clarity regarding the AstroTurf, so that you have that in writing, Save Warrington Fields have that in writing, and we have that in writing as well. And it will be the same information for all different groups. So I've just asked John to do that, and he said he will. So thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all three of you. Yes, Councillor Fox.
Can I just ask a quick question about the actual grass that's going to be in the field, about the actual costing of it and who's paying for it?
Yes. Having a look at that, I'll refer to the Director for Place and Economy. It's a bit of I won't say it's a complex question. It should be a pretty straightforward question because it's around cutting of the grass. But when we know about quotes of cutting of the grass, that I do not know. I'm sorry, off the top of my head.
Can we revert, Leader, we'll revert with a response if that's acceptable.
In writing?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Can we respond to you in writing around that question? That's fine. Would it be possible at all? We've had, have we had these statements in writing with the questions at all from Councillor Fox? Would it be okay to send that to us, Councillor Fox? Okay, that's fine, and we will respond to you in writing. We'll be able to obtain them from the live stream too. That's not a problem. That'll make life easier for everyone. Thank you. I'd like to thank all three ward councillors today. In my sum up, I will make reference to your advocacy for your residents, indeed, and some of the difficult situations that you've had to face too, that has conferred judgment upon you, that was quite frankly unfair from other elected members. We won't take any names here, but actually I think that it's really important that we make your position clear. So thank you. Thank you for your advocacy and thank you for your representation here today. Right, now, I think that we'll move to members. I think that this is the opportunity for us to discuss this agenda item, which is, again, I would like to state, the judicial review update. So members, I invite you to embark upon debate, ask questions at all. This is our opportunity. Councillor Hogg.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. I wanted to kind of reiterate my position on this, as you know, we've talked about this some time ago, and the decision was made at that point, and this is just kind of a firming up of that. But I also want to kind of address some of the points that have been made today. In terms of being predetermined and what have you, I can't speak for the other members of the Cabinet, but I was challenged on that by the legal officer. Make sure that I'm not coming into this predetermined at all. Obviously, previously, as been evidenced today, I brought an amendment to the motion that went to full council in order to reduce the size of the fenced area. So the bottom line for me is this, this local access agreement. I get where you're coming from, and you're saying that this is only going to be used by sports clubs. But if the sports clubs weren't be allowed to use that space, where would they use that? What space would they use? They would use some of that other open space provision that is the other side of the pathway, that would then reduce the amount of space that local residents for dog walking, just walking, picnics, etc. The last thing you need is suddenly for a load of football pitches to be set up there for community use, when there are some perfectly good ones within the fence line. So the whole point of this community use agreement is to basically put the sports area of that open space provision inside the fence where it should be. Ultimately with dog walking, etc. We know there are irresponsible dog owners. They're not all irresponsible, but there are some. And the last thing you need is to be able to, if having to trawl a pitch to make sure that there's no dog mess before a game. So the fact that having that fenced off will then basically stop that from happening. So yes, so that proportion of the community and the wider community will be able to use those pitches for sports outside of school hours, which then leaves the rest of this considerable open space provision in that area. Let's be very clear on that. Do I think that the space that they're being given is sufficient? I think actually that they should have listened to the mood of the room, to the mood of residents in Warrington, and that could have been reduced. But that wasn't the case. The case is that the Four Cs have got a very strong legal case against us in terms of judicial review, and ultimately that. The whole point of having a legal team is that you then listen to what the legal team has to tell you. It's like you go to a doctor and the doctor says you need surgery. You need surgery. You don't go, well, actually, I don't believe you. The whole point of having expert advice, only a fool turns that down. So we are up against the wall here. And as for this... Let's hold it back for another 6 months. This has been going on for 7 years. So 7 years where that school has not had a fence provision for outdoor activities. So that's many pupils of that school that have been denied the ability to have outdoor recreation for football and sports days, etc., in a non-fenced environment. I don't believe that many people would not want to see the school having some sort of provision. The question really is what the size of that would be. But as I said, because this has been protracted over 7 years, there's a lot of intertwined conversations, emails, meetings, people that are no longer employed by the council, people that are no longer councillors or cabinet members or what have you. And ultimately, we find ourselves with a really complicated situation. Leaving it another 6 months is just what the other people did, was just kick it down the road. Kick it down the road. It's too complicated. Let's not bother with it. Let's kick it down the road. We're not prepared to do that any longer. What we want to do is to see a conclusion to this matter, because it is important that children have outside space provision for their PE and what have you. It was a long time ago, so I couldn't tell you if that's the correct term nowadays. It is still PE. So we are where we are. Have we rushed this through to get it done prior to election? I really don't think so. I think, if anything, the easy thing to do would be to kick it down the road another 6 months after the election, and then be able to deal with it at that point. But no, we've done the right thing. We're dealing with it. I do want to put on record that I'm very, very disappointed that 4Cs, that their compromise is to take the box that they had previously and move it over by 5 metres and say, look, you've gained another 5 metres on that side. We haven't gained anything. They've just moved the box. But the bottom line is, and this is the main reason why I have changed my position on this, is the fact that if this goes to judicial review, it is going to cost a significant 6-figure sum to take to court. And whoever loses has to pay the other side's legal fees. So we're talking about a 6-figure sum that if Peterborough City Council lose the case, we have to find a 6 figures fund amount of money from local services across the city in order to pay for that. If we win, we don't pay anything and we get our costs paid for us by the 4Cs. But where does that money come from? Well, I'll tell you where it comes from. It comes from the 9 schools that form that trust, the Academy Trust's organisation, all of whom are Peterborough schools. So that's 9 schools that would then be affected with their budgets, that would mean that they would not get the things that they deserve, that are in the budgets. That money has to come from it. There's no magic money tree. That money has to come from somewhere. So if 4Cs is not prepared to be reasonable and back down from this, then we have to. It's not great. It stinks, I have to say. But ultimately, we have to make those tough decisions. Our hands have gone into this tide from previous administrations. We've had very little in the way of wriggle room. The bottom line is that this land was designated as education land. I was actually at the planning meeting in 2020 in March, and I actually proffered the thing that actually this part of this land should be would have been a much better use for sports fields, because it's kind of tucked out the way compared to where it was going to be at the top of the field. So, we are where we are. We've already made the decision to go ahead with this, and this is just tying those loose parts together. So it is really with a heavy heart, but I really can't see any way out of this. I've listened to, I've questioned the legal team. They haven't just told me what to do. I've made numerous questions to them about, well, can we do this and can we do that? I've met with 4Cs myself prior to being a cabinet member to see what wriggle room there was. There was none. I just find it hard to think that they are a partner in educating our children. But it is where we are. So I apologise to the Save the Warrington Fields campaign. You've done a wonderful campaign, and you've made some very strong arguments. But the bottom line is the deck was stacked against us. And so we are essentially forced to agree this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hogg. Anyone else want to? Councillor Ali.
Firstly, I want to declare that I do have children that go to school. I know I didn't need to, but I think I just want to make that plain and clear, because I remember someone bringing this point up to me the first time around. I'm really annoyed personally that we've come this far down the line and this is not resolved. Children do need it, but I understand that the open space is needed as well. Why we've come to this decision, and that's due to the legal teams. It is unfair on the people that live there. I am one of the residents as well. I do use a field. I know exactly what everyone is saying. But I will say one thing to our Warrington councillors. You've done a very good job. Honestly, I've come across yourselves as being straight up, trying to find out every single answer, any sort of way around this, to defer it, to move it, to compromise it. The efforts that you have put in have been exceptional. And I honestly, I know I shouldn't say this, but I am a Labour member, but I do vote for you as well. It's a fair comment to make, because you do the work that's there as well. There are members out there who have made silly claims as it is election time. I won't say who, but they absolutely have no nothing at all. They're not factual. They don't have any consistency. And when pressed, that is their personal opinion, and they will do whatever they can for votes. But I am really sorry to say that we're in a corner, and we really can't get out of it. And it's not, with a heavy heart, I will say this, that I'm not happy personally with this predicament that we have. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Ali. Anybody else would like to say anything at all? Councillor Mohammed Jamil.
Thank you very much, Leader. I think most of the sentiments have already been echoed. And I actually feel, having been around through this whole 2019 onwards, I actually feel that the Warrington Field, the previous administrations, previous councillors, the previous have let the people of Warrington down. This should have been sorted in 2019 before we even embarked on giving that school to 4Cs. It should never have come to this. But, as the Mayor has pointed out, it gets political after a while, and it's costing votes. The previous administration just kicked into touch, and I recently saw a video by our previous MP, who's blaming everyone else. He was MP for 4 of those 7 years, or 5 of those 7 years, did nothing. 3, 4 of those years, his administration was in power. But did they do anything? No. They did. Let's kick it into check. It'll be someone else's problem. Let someone else sort out. Sadly, we're here today and we have to make a decision. I honestly feel for you guys because Samir will tell you, we have a little strip of land on Borge Boulevard. It was open land just like yours. We gave it to the council and it became AstroTurf pitches. The school do use it. In the end, what happened? We have to now pay to use it. So I feel the pain that you're actually reflecting, and I see it. But unfortunately, the school, when it took over that part of that ward, the land came with it, and then we had to do it. So I know what it feels like. I also, like Zamir will tell you, see people jumping over the fence to actually go in and use it. So how are we going to police this? How are they going to police it? It's going to be there. But I think there is a compromise here, and I think the compromise will be in the use agreement. We have to make sure what we do now is airtight. We have to make sure going forward what happens and what the school has to now give. They are getting what they wanted. Now they have to give back to the people of Warrington, and they have to be allowed to use and in a more amicable way than probably what we've done before. I honestly feel for the people. I also feel for that generation of children. If we're talking 7 years, that's a whole school life of a secondary school child who've gone through without having the benefit of that. I don't want to see that again. I don't want no child to have missed out on using those fields. Therefore, it is sad that we're having to make this decision. But for me, I feel that the children also have to come into play here. And for that reason, I will be supporting the recommendation with a heavy heart.
Thank you, Councillor Jamil. Councillor Farouk.
Thank you, Leader, and through yourself. Well, this has gone on for 7 years. Today, I would love to propose it to be postponed for another 6 months or 3 months, as some previously discussed. And I can also talk about safeguarding. I can also talk about how children will benefit from that. And equally, I can talk about how residents have been benefiting from that land, and they should continue to do so. But you know what? We have spoken enough on that stuff until the cows come home. I want to talk about the narrative, the process. Who is in control of that process? Who was in control of that process 7 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, today, and yesterday? One thing I want to make sure, want to state that at no point ward councillors were in control of that narrative. They chased the issues with the cabinets, all the cabinets, and they wanted to get things right, but they were never able to do so. So in 7 years, obviously the narrative have changed hands. So at some point, the Save the Warrington Fields were perhaps were in control of the narrative, where they were perhaps offered a better compromise. City Council was perhaps at some point also in charge of the narrative as the authority who hadn't passed on the whole project. But today we're at a point where none of us are control of that narrative apart from the lawyers. And we know when the lawyers are involved, nobody wins. They have, in fact, it was only yesterday I was reading one of the posts that there's one law firm where the top partners earn £22,000 a day. But leaving that aside, coming back, if the lawyers are now in charge of the narrative, now what we look at as a city council is what is the probability. You know, we all live on forecast. What is the probability of winning that case, judicial review? And that probability, unfortunately, we are advised by lawyers, is against us. And therefore, council is unable to pick up large six-figure sums of money spending on our own lawyers, and not just that, then paying for the 4Cs lawyers as well. So with that heavy heart, I think today I'll be going forward for this recommendation so that we can get rid of this judicial review. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Farouk. Councillor Samirala, you wanted to just make a really quick point, please, so we can wrap up.
Certainly, and I do apologise. I just wanted to come back on Councillor Jamil's point. The community usage agreement really now is what we're going to be working for. And I'll be honest with you, I do not want to see what happened in my ward to happen to the Warrington field. But I really am going to be vocal about this, because I'm not going to be one who's going to sit back, because I don't want that situation to happen again. That's all I need to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, we've had over an hour of discussion around this, and I'd first of all like to thank the campaigners and the residents, those that have come here who have believed in the campaign from day one. I'd also like to thank the ward councillors who have been on this journey, especially the councillors Fox, Judy Fox and John Fox, for the last 7 years. I'd also like to apologise in my executive position as the leader and make a wholehearted apology to the elected representatives for the mistakes of previous administrations that did not offer you the level of transparency that you deserved. And I think that it's really important that we lay that out. If we are an administration that represents transparency, openness and accountability. This has been a really difficult decision. I needn't allude to all the points that my fellow cabinet members have made. But if you have a look at the pros and cons, as an authority, we have the elected members, we have the residents of Warrington Fields, we have the campaigners, we have the 4Cs of the academy, and at the centre of all of this, we also have around 1,000 to 1,500 children at the school. And what is our role as the council? Our role as the council is our overarching responsibility and duty of care. And I know that there have been pros and cons around the safeguarding element. Is putting a fence up law? No, it isn't. Is it advisable? Yes, it is. Under what guise? Some people don't agree with the safeguarding element. But do you agree with the duty of care element? I know that I certainly do. When we're looking at making sure that the number of children to go to that school, even if it was 39 weeks of the year, at least have access to some recreational space that accommodates the numbers of children that go to that school. That's really important. And it's not an ideal position. We have seen that it appears historically that there was a compromisable space around when people came to the table to negotiate terms, and everybody seemed to be, historically, in agreement with some of those outcomes, and it fell away by the wayside. I know that your councillors have asked for the response of why it fell by the wayside, why the then cabinet member of the previous administration sought to gain your views, take them away, and then be completely excluded from any discussion that took place subsequent to that. And for that, we hold them responsible. Is this going to be an unpopular decision that we make with the residents? It probably is going to be. Are we doing this before election time? We know that we're going to be unpopular in front of the residents, so we're not doing it for election purposes at all. The amount of correspondence that I personally have received as leader from members, and I've tried to respond to everyone, and sometimes we have veered into territory where I haven't been able to respond and have taken the counsel of our legal officer to give me an accurate response, not for want of not wanting to respond to residents, but because I wanted to make sure that what we were giving you was the accurate information. So if I haven't responded to those emails, I do apologise, but I do want to give reassurance to the residents that have written to me that I have forwarded those emails to the legal officer so that he can provide me with a response of clarity. The key decision here, as Councillor Christian Hogg alluded to, was the fact that we are now in the midst of a judicial review, and we have to make a decision on that judicial review update today, and that is only around the judicial review. Judicial reviews are very expensive. Unfortunately, we don't have that disposable amount of money to fight it. And again, it's a pros and cons exercise. If I were to state my own position, I've said at the beginning, and I've said now, I will always bat for the children. And I think that Councillor Sarah Hillier was very right to allude to all children, not just the school, but actually the residents of Warrington, the young children of Warrington as well. And I have met with members of Save Warrington Fields, and I met with Miss Mbarchian, and how this field has an emotional and sentimental value to it. When she presented to me and spoke to me about it, I take all of that on board. And in fact, I think a lot of people have said here that they do so with a heavy heart. I'm not going to. I would rather be direct so that people know where they stand. It has been an impossible, absolutely impossible journey. The decision, however, around the judicial review, for myself, has been one of best interests. And I'm hoping that we're able to follow it up, to use this as learning as an opportunity to make sure that the community use agreement is watertight and can be used as an exercise to bring everybody around the table. So I'm resolute in making sure that we make a decision around the judicial review update. I don't want to say I do so with a heavy heart, because I would like to think that we're looking after the interests of the children, but following on from that, can also, through the community use agreement, look after the interests of the residents as well, to bring those children of the community into this, so that that field serves the needs of the community and the children of the school at the same time. And I think that that's a place where all of us will seem to be comfortable. So on that note, that's what my sum up is going to be. I'm really sorry that the councillors have had to face some horrendous judgment from our combined authority mayor, and also other elected members. You didn't deserve it. You had maintained your stance and your principles all along, and I'm really grateful that you've stuck to your principles. And I think that the residents know that, and they need to hear that as well. So thank you very much for that, and I needed to make that clear too. And while some people have done so for electioneering purposes, everyone around this table isn't going to. We know what the outcome is going to be. We probably will prove to be very unpopular, but we do have to make a decision on this. And that is why I would rather that we speak our truth around this, but give an element of hope that there is going to be an opportunity to get this right for everyone around the community use agreement. That is very important for us. So without further ado, what I will ask Cabinet members around the table is to approve the recommendations on page 86 on the recommendations header of the agenda pack. And I'd like to ask you all, do you agree to these recommendations? Thank you very much. Now, we will adjourn the meeting because this had a lot of public interest, to give the public time to either, should they so choose to do so, leave or stay around, and then we will commence with the remainder of the agenda items on the Cabinet. Thank you very much for attending today. Everybody, we're after that adjournment. Right, so moving on, agenda item number 5, which is contract award emergency accommodation for homeless households. This item can be found on pages 5 to 12 of the agenda. Councillor Christian Hogg, Cabinet Member for Housing and Regulatory Services. Please can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader. This report responds to the recommendation 2 in the joint strategy report to Cabinet on the 20th of January 2026, which called for urgent action on our emergency accommodation procurement and contract arrangements. Interim governance is already in place, but this report now explains how we will procure spot purchased emergency accommodation in the longer term, ensuring that we meet legal and constitutional requirements, achieve value for money, and apply consistent property standards. In addition, the Council is carrying out a full procurement of its wider temporary accommodation portfolio to secure the right mix and volume of housing and continue reducing the reliance on emergency options such as B&Bs and hotels. Although the total contract value is capped at 5 million to allow for flexibility, we expect annual spending to be significantly lower, reflecting the 60% reduction in households placed in emergency accommodation during 25-26. Essentially, this is like it's an overdraft. In order, if we need to dip into it, well, then we can do so. But it's not our plan to do so.
Thank you very much, Councillor Hogg. We now move to questions and debate. Are there any members that would like to raise any questions or make any points at all? I'm looking around the table over here. None whatsoever. Councillor Mohammed Jamil.
Thank you, Leader. I just want to, as well as the finance, I also hold the governance portfolio as well, and I welcome this. For too long, we've just let loose and not really looked at our spending, which is, left us where we are financially. I just think this is really good, and that we're actually doing this and moving forward, and this administration needs to take credit for that.
Thank you. I completely agree with those sentiments. Nobody else want to say anything? I mean, I think in terms of sum up, it's really important to understand retrospectively what this administration, in line with help from the officers, has recognised and what we've tried to put in place to regularise the contracts for our emergency temporary housing and accommodation. So I'd like to thank the officers for an awful lot of hard work, particularly Matt Oliver, our officer here, who actually carries a huge burden as the majority of our casework, aside from fly tipping, is around emergency housing prevention, so a provision. So I'd just like to say thank you very much, Matt. Don't ever underestimate the impact of your role to people's lives. I'd like to thank the Cabinet Member as well on record, Councillor Christian Hogg. Because of all the teams working together, I think that it's safe to say that this administration, working together with this line of, or this portfolio, has seen that the number of children in bed and breakfast accommodation has been reduced to 0. That is commendable. The fact that we're regularising it and laying down an aspect of governance is also just a plus point. So demonstrate that this cross-party coalition has demonstrated accountability and transparency. So on the back of that, what I'd like to say is that I'd like to ask members to approve the recommendations as set out under the recommendations header on pages 5 and 6 of the agenda pack. And Councillor Christian Hogg, I knew you were going to say something there. Go on.
I just, I don't want to be that Cabinet Member that looks to proffer votes coming up, but the staff awards are coming up, and this man needs to get an award. Thank you.
I can see the blush shade from here. It's all right, Matt. Well, absolutely. You've heard. We've seen, we're going to conquer this. That's all I'm going to say. But thank you very much. So are we keen to approve the recommendations on pages 5 and 6 of the agenda pack?
Agreed.
Thank you very much. And Matt, thank you very much. He couldn't get away more quicker. Wonderful. Right, moving on swiftly. Agenda item number 6, the Obesity Charter. Dr. Damilola Akinsulire. I hope that I've pronounced that correctly, Damilola. This agenda item around the Obesity Charter can be found on pages 13 to 46 of the agenda. Councillor Zamir Ali, Cabinet Member for Communities, Poverty and Public Health. Please, can you introduce the report?
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Cabinet is being asked to support and commit to the Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Obesity Charter, endorsing its principles and the Council role in a system-wide delivery. The obesity remains a significant public health challenge, closely linked with deprivation, inequality, and continues to place pressures on the health, social care, and council services. The Charter is commits partners to collectively action, focus on prevention, structural changes, and healthier environments with priorities. Priority areas including children and young people, and in the public sector as an employer. Cabinet is recommended to support and commit to the Obesity Charter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Ali. Members, do we have any questions or point of debate? So, given that our physical activity but actually our plan, Let's Keep Moving, has launched, I think this comes as a really timely opportunity. Absolutely. You know, we know the impacts of obesity. It is it's a risk factor for developing cancer, as we know. It's also a risk factor in those we know we have high numbers of diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure. So it really is an opportunity to nail down and address this very issue within our city, especially in levels of pockets of deprivation that we have within the city and the access to cheap, fast food, which is often unhealthy. So this comprises a whole, I think, arena of legislation, doesn't it, or policy that people can look at, and I'm really thankful to the public health team for the work that officers have put into this. So thank you very much for compiling this report. If there's nothing else that members wish to say on this, I think it's pretty straightforward. We're being asked members to approve the recommendations on the recommendations header of page 14 of the agenda pack. Are we content to agree? Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Damilola. Now, the next agenda item is the Healthy Child Programme Pay Award. Pay Award uplift of 2025 to 26, and this item can be found on pages 47 to 60 of the agenda. Councillor Zamir Ali, Cabinet Member for Communities, Poverty and Public Health. Please, can you introduce this report?
Thank you very much. This Cabinet paper is presented to provide an uplift to the Healthy Children Programme Section 75 agreement with Cambridgeshire Community Services. As a NHS provider, Cambridgeshire Community Services is subject to an annual agenda for change. I do apologise, it's just fallen out of national pay awards impacting on increasing pay costs on the Section 75 agreement. In 2025 and 2026, this award was 3.6 and approval is sorted to the uplift of the Section 75 agreement to reflect this. In addition, Cabinet is being asked to approve the additional recommendations set out in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Zamir Ali. Is there anybody that wants to make any comments or ask any questions around this pay uplift? I think it's just, the report sets out it's a standardised uplift that we are accommodating within the realms of that Section 75 agreement. So I think in line with that, pretty straightforward. There's nothing contentious in this. We don't need to debate it really. And we've all read the papers. And having said that, I'd like to now ask members to approve the recommendations on page 49 of the agenda pack. Are we content to agree the recommendations? 48, sorry, I don't know. I thought I would say it without looking at the paper, but there you go. 48. members? 48. Are we content to agree the recommendations? Thank you. Thank you very much, officers. Really appreciate your time with this. Right, moving on. We have agenda item number 8, which is governance to support city centre growth and regeneration. This item can be found on pages 61 to 76 of the agenda. Councillor Mohammed Farouk, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Growth and Regeneration. Please, can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader, and through yourself. Peterborough City Council has collaborated with Cambridgeshire and Peterborough Combined Authorities Strategic Place Partnership with Homes England to undertake a strategic review of development opportunities within Peterborough City Centre. Parallel to this work, Peterborough City Council has initiated engagement with Peterborough Visioning Project, which will define a long-term vision for our city centre. This report seeks approval to establish a joint growth board to oversee programme delivery of key regeneration projects and outlines the recommended approach to resource the establishment of the growth board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Farouk. Is there anybody that would like to make any comments? Councillor Katie Cole.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. And this may be a question that either Councillor Farouk, Adrian, or yourself, Leader, may wish to answer. So I saw on a social media post that there had been an event around the Mayoral Development Corporation and how that's going to support Peterborough. So I just would like some further information as to how we are going to ensure that Peterborough's voice is very strong in that development corporation, and that the lights are not just going to shine on Cambridge, but that actually we get our fair share of the limelight too.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. I will look to Councillor Farouk and our Director of Place and Economy, who's smiling at me, keen to respond to the question.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Peterborough is equal partner, but we equally working collaboratively with the combined authority, regardless of the political colours. We have huge plans together, whether it's forming a development corporation, whether having a mayor's roundtable. We are working together, and when we are equal partners in this. And of course, they play a key role in that the most of the government funding will be channeled through combined authority to ourselves. And that includes our current projects, such as the station quarter and university and the bridge, of course, itself. But we always beat the drum for Peterborough every time we have, including the leader when she visits the leader's strategy meeting or the corporate board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Councillor Cole. Did you want to come back on that?
If that's okay. Could I just ask as well that when you're in these meetings that the board is longer than the term of an elected mayor, and that actually it goes along with the growth plan that we have here for the city, and so that regardless of who is sitting in that seat or our leader's seat, that actually it goes above and beyond that, and that it isn't a vanity project for a leaflet. Thank you.
Thank you. Growth board is not aligned with any political life cycles. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? I've got Councillor Mohammed Jamil.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. I've been around quite a few years and I've seen many projects come and go. What's different about this one? What are we sure that we're going to see this to this end? And I'm going to link that with one of my other pet projects that, I've talked about North Westgate for such a long time, and people come and then they sell their dream, but nothing really actually then comes of it. So in two parts. So what's different about this, and what is there about North Westgate that, this will help bring about that?
Like you, I've been looking forward to these things and looking for delivery, and occasionally the delivery have been missing. But on this occasion, the work is happening. Currently we're asking for more views from residents. We have Pride and Place funding of 1.5 million, which will bring immediate changes to the city centre. But going on to the bigger projects, work has already started on CityLink or the Signet Park. Then we have, of course, the plans such as the Layer Centre, and I'll pass on to Adrian.
Thank you, Councillor Farouk, and thanks, Leader. Just to add, and really to combine both questions in a sense. I think this growth board signals a significant shift in focus for Peterborough. This will be the first time that we will have a board comprising representation from the City Council, the Combined Authority and Homes England. That's a three-way collaboration of major stakeholders in this city, and all focused on delivering positive change. We're all motivated by the same sets of outcomes, and that is to build a better Peterborough, to create homes that people want to live in, to create an environment people want to live in, to create good jobs, create the right skills landscape, and create a culture and leisure offer that people can enjoy. And all three of those organisations will be coming together in a very formal way to make that happen. They will be held to account under the terms of the Growth Board. The Growth Board will then, assuming the plan goes according to the way we're currently thinking, will then morph into a mayoral development corporation, which will be for Peterborough. It will not be for the region. This will be a mayoral development corporation for a specific part of our own city. And that will add further weight to the sorts of changes, tools and levers that we need to bring about the changes that are required for a place that's complicated like North Westgate, and where there's multiple land ownerships, it's complicated, lots of history. We want to cut through all of that, and I think we've got the only opportunity, frankly, and a unique opportunity, therefore, to make that happen through the Growth Board. We want to, subject to approval today, get that board set up as quickly as we can. Just to quickly add, it will be further enhanced by expert voices around the table. So over the next few weeks and months, we will be inviting other types of organisations to join that growth board, people who have got lived experience in growth and regeneration, in the skills agenda, in culture and leisure, voluntary community voices, so that it becomes properly representative of our growth aspirations.
Thank you very much, Adrian. Councillor Jamil, you wanted to come back.
Yeah, thank you for that, Adrian. And I really look forward to it. Second half of my question is one that I've asked before, and I'll ask again. We £1.5 million government given so we can improve our city centre and enhance the experience to visitors of the economy. And now one of the things that we're often criticised for is that the previous administration took away all the public toilets. So can you just reassure me that there are plans to bring those back? Because, if people need these facilities, and especially when you've got visitors coming from out town, got nowhere else to go. So if you can just shed some light on that for me, please.
Yeah, sorry, through you, Chair, if that's okay. Thank you, Councillor Farouk, as well. So, absolutely. So £1.5 million that Councillor Farouk mentioned is the Pride in Place Impact Fund. We have the name, the clue is in the name. It's designed to deliver an impact, and from our survey work so far, and certainly through member engagement, one of the biggest impacts we think need to be made is in toilet provision, as well as enhancements to Cathedral Square and the Guildhall. And we think we can combine, I'm not suggesting toilets will sit on the Cathedral Square, by the way, but I think we can combine all of that into one single project. I'm hoping that in the next couple of days, we'll be putting out a press release, a first press release on the early ideas that have emerged from our engagement activity linked to that £1.5 million, and you will definitely see toilet provision of some kind featuring.
Thank you. Councillor Christian Hall.
So this all sounds very good, but we all know that the station quarter, the regeneration of Millfield, how long did that from the announcement that was going to take place to actually it being finished? So maybe you could put some meat on the bones, and is this going to be a powerhouse or a talking shop? Are we going to see results quickly? I hate to use that word pace because it's been used so badly in the past. So how long do you think it will be before we can see something happening with the Guildhall, something happening with toilet facilities in our town centre?
Councillor Farouk, I think Adrian Davey, did you want to respond to that?
Thank you, Leader. I think there's two different exercises there. The Pride in Place 1.5 million is a quick, immediate programme to make differences now. The work with Homes England and the Combined Authority is a longer-term strategic partnership, which will probably take anything from 10 to 15, 20 years perhaps. We're talking significant amounts of development and regeneration of the city, possibly as many as 4,000 homes, 25,000 square metres of retail and commercial space. That's very different from what's in the local plan. The local plan is about delivery of immediately available sites. This is about working with people who can help us buy sites that are next to other sites that are in multiple different ownerships that can bring forward opportunities for buildings that are not being used efficiently at the moment. And it will take time to put all that together. But the advantage we've got is we've got the organisations with the powers, the money as well, obviously key, all aligned to want to do that together and want to work with the private sector to help us deliver that as well.
Thank you very much. Councillor Katie Cole. Oh, Councillor Hogg, you wanted to come back
Sorry,
on that.
sorry to be a pain, but which tranche is that going to be in terms of the Guildhall and the toilet facilities? Are we having to wait 15 years for a toilet?
Apologies, I should have been clearer.
Do we have to keep our legs crossed for that long?
No, apologies, not me. Apologies, I should have been clearer. The Pride and Place Fund is which is the toilets and the work around the city centre initially is the immediate one. Yep.
Thank you. Councillor Katie Cole.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. I just heard you mention that there's going to be an increase in the number of residential areas in the city centre. I have to ask, because I've got my cabinet hat on, can we please make sure that there are facilities that families can access that are free or low cost? Because if I'm living in a city centre with a small child, then I'm going to want to be able to take them to something easily. So when plans are drawn up for facilities within the city centre, can we make sure that there is adequate family provision and young people provision? Because I don't want to see something, more personally, I don't want to see something that is equivalent to Manor Drive, where there's a school in the middle of a residential area and nothing for people to go to. So, thank you.
Thank you very much. Right. No other comments? Okay, so I think we'll sum up. I think that this is a real opportunity here. You know, we've mentioned laying out the governance. What steps? 2 weeks ago, we sat here at a mayoral roundtable, and I will, on all of our behalf, take credit for the fact that this is an administration that is willing to come to those tables and work with our combined authority mayor in setting the vision for our city. We are an ambitious administration. We do want to see development and growth within our city. Laying out the governance for that is really a really important part, because that will oversee the delivery of the next steps, any meetings that take place, any stakeholders or partners that want to come and invest within our city. At least we will have a framework over which we can make those credible decisions. I'll also allude to the fact that it's very right that Councillor Farouk has mentioned the £1.5 million worth of regeneration funding that has come from Pride in Place to the city centre. We're getting a sports quarter. Our city centre is thriving because of its university. So you just have to look around you and see that what we have on offer. And this will be an extension to that. The last Peterborough Development Corporation that took place stemmed from 1968 to 1988. It saw the building of 10,000 homes in the Ortons, Bretton and Warrington. And this is a complete regeneration of that. And it's an example of people putting aside politics and working in the best interests of our city. So I'm very excited about it. And on that note, what I am going to do is ask members across the board to help me approve the recommendations set out at page 62 of the agenda pack. So my ask is, are we all content to agree those recommendations, members? Thank you very much. That's wonderful. Thank you, Adrian. Thank you. Moving swiftly on, agenda item number 9 is grant funding to early years childcare providers. The item can be found on pages 77 to 84 of the agenda. Councillor Katie Cole, Cabinet Member for Children's Services, please can you introduce the report?
Thank you, Leader, and through you. The Department for Education, or DFE, provide all local authorities with early years funding via the early years block with a dedicated school grant. This Cabinet report is seeking authorisation to accept the grant funding in order that the authority can fund the free childcare entitlement across the city. We are also seeking authorisation to issue agreements to all providers who deliver the free childcare entitlement, outlining the conditions of the grant funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anybody that would like to make any comments? Councillor Christian Hogg.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. I just wanted, this is great news in terms of funding for this this provision, but we need to make sure that we've got enough people to provide, or spaces or places or what have you, to provide that. Can you assure me that we're doing okay? We don't want to be oversupplied, but we don't want to be undersupplied either. But also, can you also tell me what parents, how parents can get this funding, basically? How can they avail themselves?
Thank you. I'd just like to ask Rachel, if you don't mind. Sorry, no, it's not Rachel. I just completely got your name wrong there, didn't I? Pam.
We're currently predicting enough early years childcare across the city, although with the expanded offer we are seeing high take-up of provision across the city. Just in summary, we have to date a relatively stable market for our 3 and 4 year old provision. That we are aware, however, of predicted pressures for the places for under 2s and the 2-year-olds. As this is the first year of the full expansion entitlement, we are continuing to assess the childcare take-up every term. So we do a termly census that's enabling us to respond quickly where we have shortfalls. And we will be reviewing very shortly a full market position statement that will then provide us with more detailed updated data on the childcare sufficiency. But at the moment, busy but with sufficient childcare. In terms of the where parents get the entitlement, there's a web page which provides all of the information and all the different entitlements that parents can access. There is a calculator on there so parents can have a look at whether they're entitled to the 2-year-old funding or whether they're entitled to the working parent entitlement. That's promoted widely. We have a families information service, so for those who may not want to access a website, there's a telephone number where they can ring in and ask about the offer. And we do know that our providers across the city, if parents go in to talk to providers, they will also give them information about the offer. We're also working quite closely with the family hubs, and in terms of their family workers going out and talking to parents, they will also be promoting the childcare entitlement for parents.
Thank you very much, Pam. Councillor Cole, you wanted to come in.
Thank you, Leader. I just wanted to thank Carrie, Pam and all of the early years team because they do work really hard engaging with nurseries, both private and school settings across this city. But I also just need to add that families need to make sure by checking on the website that they are getting the entitlement for everything that they are entitled to, especially with the 2-child funding cap being lifted from the 1st of April. So I am digressing slightly, but I want to take this opportunity to say to people, if you think you are entitled to it, please check, because it's an additional source of income that hard-pressed families will benefit from. From the 1st of April. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Any more questions? No? Okay. Right. Pam, I'd really like to thank you and the team for putting your hard work into this. And on that note, I would like to ask Cabinet members to approve the recommendations under the recommendation header on page 77 to 78 of the agenda pack. Members, are we content to agree the recommendations? Thank you very much. Pam, thank you very much. Now, agenda item number 10 is exclusion of press and the public. But The next agenda item that we are discussing does contain exempt appendices, and should a member wish to discuss the information in those appendices, the press and the public with respect will be asked to leave the room while that discussion takes place in accordance with Schedule A, Part 1 of the Local Government Act 1972 as amended. We will now move on to that next agenda item, which is agenda item number 12, because as you know, we have spent a considerable amount of time on agenda item number 11, which was the Ken Stimson Academisation. And this is the Southfields Primary School SEND Specialist Unit. And this can be found on pages 149 of 198 of the agenda. Councillor Katie Cole, Cabinet Member for Children's Services, please can you introduce the report?
Very happy to do so, Leader, thank you. Southfields Primary School within the stand ground area of Peterborough operates as a 3 full-time entry primary school. The planning area of Stanground and Fletton is experiencing a fall in pupil numbers, which is having an adverse effect on our primary school budgets and an increase in surplus classrooms. The school has a maximum capacity of 630 pupils aged 4 to 11, however, only has 539 children on school roll, with the number expected to fall even further over the next 5 years. The school are therefore looking to reduce from a 3-form entry class school size down to a 2-form entry school intake. The surplus space is allowing us to create a specialist unit for 38 children with autism spectrum disorders and associated learning difficulties from children aged between 5 to 11 years, and this will start from September 27. This project is being funded by the High Needs Grant funding. If approved by Cabinet today, this project will commence within the next month and will be ready for the opening of September 2027, and is also something that I have been very firmly in support of, especially with the government SEND white paper that's currently out for consultation, in terms of children with SEND being educated within their local community, so it keeps those family and friendship bonds as the young person goes through their education. So I couldn't be more delighted to bring this to Cabinet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Members, do we have any questions? It's all right, Councillor Hogg. It's absolutely fine. Of course you can ask a question.
I couldn't let something in my patch go by without comment. I have to say. So I think this is a great win-win. It's all about using existing assets that the council has got to plug a need. It also means that the school itself is got a more sustainable future. There's a lot of people in Stanground that have a lot of love for that school. And I think that what this does is it does provide them with that more sustainable future. So I think this is a great innovative plan. And what it also does is it means that, you know, it reduces the need for us to send pupils outside of Peterborough for their provision, specialist provision, which is not great for the children. You know, having to have long car journeys, etc., etc. So if we can keep them local, that's really good for them. But it also means it reduces the pressure that we have on home-to-school transport. Presumably, that will mean a fairly significant cost saving in that regard.
Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Councillor Hogg, for your question. I have a child who is neurodiverse, and I want my child educated within the community that they live in. In terms of cost pressures, it is a difficult subject to talk about because these are people's children. But keeping the children where they are living means that there is going to be a reduced cost to transport from within that area. If you want specifics, though, I will ask Director for Children's Services to answer the question or write to you if you so wish.
Director of Education, John Gregg. I was going to call you Councillor Gregg there.
Thank you, Leader. Thank you for the question, Councillor Hogg. If I could draw your attention to paragraph 2.16 in the report, the associated costs of placing 38 children outside of the city boundary is estimated to be approximately £513,000 a year. But I would just stress that this is likely to be more achieved through cost avoidance rather than actual cost saving. Thank you.
I would just want to be very clear that it should never be about cost savings, but it's always good when we get cost savings on the back of good work.
I couldn't agree more, Councillor Hogg. Point very well made. Now, anyone else like to make any points at all? Okay. So, therefore, we are asking colleagues to move the recommendations on the recommendation header on page 149 to 150 of the agenda pack. Are we content to agree the recommendations, members? Thank you very much. Moving on. It's very exciting. Grant of a new lease, Dukes Mead. John Wesley Road, Warrington. Peterborough, PE4 6ZL. Just thought we'd get it all in there, the whole address. But this item can be found on pages 199 to 214 of the agenda. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, please can you introduce this delightful report?
Okay then. This report seeks a Cabinet approval to regularise current occupation of council-owned land through a formal lease, securing ongoing rental income, ensuring compliance with constitutional requirements, and reducing legal, financial and reputational risk. The proposed terms represent best consideration, supported by a valuation evidence and aligned with the Council's statutory duties and asset management objectives. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, it's regularising of this lease arrangement. Do we want to debate it or ask any questions around it? It's, again, an example of setting standards, doing the right thing, regularising our leases and assets. So, on that note, if there's nobody who wants to add anything to make this contentious at all, we are being asked to approve the recommendations as set out under the recommendations header on page 200 of the agenda pack. Are we content to agree the recommendations? There we go, thank you. Flick, we've just made your life easier for you. Thank you. Which we will move on because I think that we're not over yet. We've got grant of new lease on agenda item number 14, which is 31 Bridge Street. This item can be found on pages 215 to 228 of the agenda. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, please can you introduce the report?
Thank you very much, Leader. This report is presented to Cabinet to seek approval for the grant of a new lease at 31 Bridge Street. The proposal outlines the strategic rationale, anticipated benefits and key terms associated with the new lease arrangement. The recommendations within this report are intended to support the Council's ongoing commitment to effective estate management and the best use of its property assets while supporting our high street economy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any points to discuss, debate, any questions at all? Right. Well, I will say that I like this agenda item because it involves food, possibly, which is great. But anyway, I'm going to ask us to, approve the recommendations. And that is on page 216 of the agenda pack. Are we content to agree the recommendations? Thank you. There you go, Felicity. We're doing it one by one for you. Right, move on swiftly to agenda item number 15, which is grant of new community lease. Thistle Drive Community Centre. This item can be found on pages 229 to 246 of the agenda. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Leader. This is one of those ones that actually gives me lots of happy feeling because it's a community centre going back to a community where community centres belong. So this evening, please can you approve a grant of a new lease to Thistle Drive Community Centre to a local community organisation following a transparent marketing and selection process. The property is currently vacant and incurring holding costs with no income. Granting a lease will secure continued community use of the building, eliminating ongoing liabilities and generate a market rental income for the council. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody want to raise any points over here? Councillor Hogg.
It seems to be, we're doing my manner today. We've again with Sandground. Of course, I've got to talk about it. The Thistle Drive Community Centre closed some time ago, and it was a loss to a number of groups. So it's really great to see this coming back into use again. I do have just one quick question, hopefully, which is, can I be assured that with the opening of this centre, that the Knitter Natter groups, the other people that had previously been using this centre for activities, will that kind of service still be available to them?
Thank you. Councillor Jamil.
I'm going to ask Flick to come
Hand
in.
it over to Felicity.
She said nothing, and it's about time she did. Otherwise, it would have been a wasted day for her.
Thank you. Yes, I can confirm that all groups were given an opportunity to be able to use it as a community facility.
Thank you. Right. I will have to say, though, I know a little bit of knitting. I haven't been able to natter whilst I'm knitting because it's just so complicated coordinating the two, Councillor Hogg.
I'm sure you'd give it a go, Leader.
Well, let's just say that I'm not long going to come the day when I approach that era of my life where knitting will probably become a regular feature. But hey, let's see if I can do that around nattering as well. On that note, I'd like to ask members here to approve the recommendations on page 230 under the recommendations of the agenda pack. Are we content to agree the recommendations? Thank you. Moving on. Agenda item number 16 is grant of a new community lease, which is the Matley Community Centre. This item can be found on pages 247 to 266 of the agenda. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, please can you introduce this report?
Yes, Leader. Certainly this report seeks Cabinet approval for grant of a 1-year full repairing and insuring lease at market rent for the Matley Community Centre to Stand in Power Limited. Following a formal marketing and expressions of interest process to community groups, the property has been vacant since May 2025 and is currently generating holding costs and operational risk for the council. The proposed short-term lease will secure continued community use of the building, deliver best value and reduce financial and operational risk. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions at all? Councillor Katie Cole.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. I just wanted to say this is really exciting, and I'm glad that the users of this facility are going to be in ownership of it. Orton, again, is in receipt of Pride of Place funding, £20 million, £2 million a year over the next 10 years. And I think it shows just how much not only the government and we are supporting community areas where there has been limited investment and is in dire need of some community support. So I just want to say thanks. I think this is really good.
Thank you, Councillor Cole. Councillor Christian Hogg.
I just want to say that, ultimately, this is a great initiative in terms of the local asset review that we've done, that we're now making sure that these community centres can stand on their own 2 feet, that they generate some income into the council, that we haven't got the liability of maintenance in the same way that we did previously, but more importantly, that we're actually leasing these centres to people that are able to have a sustainable future. They're able to move forward, getting grant funding, etc., while still doing good works within our communities, rather than for them to be fading away and being used for some sort of redevelopment or such. So it's really good that we're still maintaining that community input. So that's very good. And I'd like to thank Felicity and the team for the work that's gone into that.
Thank you, Councillor Hogg. No one else? No other contributions? On that note, I really would actually like to reiterate the views that Councillor Hogg has put forward and all other members who have recognised that over this tenure of administration, actually the officers on the property board aspect have overseen so many of our assets in the way of land and buildings that have seen a good and proper use, underpinned by the whole governance aspect that has made sure that we are making robust, transparent and honest decisions. So I'd really like to thank you as well, Felicity, and your team, because I know that this is also one of the departments of the council that generates a lot of public interest. And it's really important that we place this on record, that this is an area or a department in the council that has demonstrated its transparency, its robustness, that we haven't seen in previous retrospective years. So please accept our thanks from the Cabinet to you and your team on the hard work that you put in. And sometimes there can be very tricky circumstances, but thank you. Thank you very much indeed. And on that, I will ask the Cabinet to approve the recommendations as set out on page 248 under the recommendations header of the agenda pack. Are we content to agree the recommendations? Thank you. We move on to agenda item number 17, which is grant of a new community agreement, Peterborough BMX Club, for the BMX track at Benyon Grove, Alton Malborn. Doesn't give a postcode this time, just to let you know. This item can be found on pages 267 to 288 of the agenda. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, who also used to ride a BMX in the 80s when they were a thing. Would you like to introduce the report?
I had a grifter in them days. Okay, this report seeks Cabinet approval to enter into a new community licence agreement with Peterborough BMX Club for the BMX track at Benyon Grove in Alton, Melbourne. The club has maintained the open access facility for over 40 years and has requested a licence to secure the tenure required to access external grant funding to upgrade the site to a national competition standard. Exciting. Under the proposed agreement, the club will assume all repair, maintenance and improved facilities, and they will take on all responsibilities while still preserving unrestricted public access. Thank you.
Thank you. Any points at all to debate? Yes, Councillor Christian Hogg.
I just wanted to say that when I first moved to Peterborough in I think it was 1990, my first property was at Sellers Grange, which is just backs onto that, and the BMX track was kind of in its heyday at the time. And in my day, it was the chopper, not the grifter, that everybody wanted. But I digress. So it's really good to see that this facility is going, still going from strength to strength, and this seems to be a new corner for it to go on to bigger and better things. So it's really great to see that happening, and I just wanted to make that point.
Thank you. Until this agenda item this report came to Cabinet Policy Forum, I didn't actually know that the BMX was still viable. I'm so pleased to see that. I mean, hands up, who owned a BMX in their childhood? I had to share with my brother, and it had blue wheels, and I was so jealous, but I made sure that we'd go around the corner. But had we had the facility of a BMX track, I think things would have been much different. So I'm so pleased to see this. And on that note, I'm going to swiftly ask Cabinet members to approve the recommendations as set out on the page 268 of the agenda pack. I know that Councillor Katie Cole was coughing because I mentioned the word blue, but hey, are we content to agree the recommendations? Thank you very much. Right, thank you very much, Felicity, for helping us introduce those reports. Now, moving on swiftly, we have agenda item number 18, which is approval to dispose of 3 rural properties. This item can be found on pages 289 to 302 of the agenda. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance, please can you introduce the report?
Thankfully, moving on from Councillor Hogg's chopper, this report seeks Cabinet approval to confirm the disposal of 3 surplus rural estate properties at market value via public auction. The assets are vacant, non-operational properties previously identified as surplus, following the Council's wider rural estate disposal approved back in April 2025. Independent valuation advice was obtained prior to marketing to ensure that we obtained best consideration in alignment with the organisation's priorities and financial sustainability. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Jamil. Anyone else would like to raise any questions or debate at all? I think this is pretty straightforward. And actually, you can see that with the number of agenda items that we have on today's Cabinet agenda, this just demonstrates again the competence and the expertise of the Property Board to have a look at these assets. So this is detailed, members, on page 290 of the agenda pack under the recommendations header. Are we content to agree the recommendations? Thank you very much. Right, that's agreed. Wonderful. Thank you, Felicity. Now, agenda item number 19 is reserved matters. Peterborough Limited. This item can be found on pages 303 of 314 of the agenda. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, Cabinet Member for Finance and Corporate Governance. Please, can you introduce the report? I will regress a little bit on what I've said, because at the beginning of the meeting, Councillor Christian Hogg declared an interest. So I will give time for him to leave the hall before we proceed. Thank you very much, Councillor Hogg. Thank you. Right, Councillor Mohammed Jamil. Well, we have to wait until he walks out. Let's use the long route. Yep, okay. Councillor Mohammed Jamil, please proceed.
I'm going to say this one gives me the most pleasure, having been involved in Peterborough Limited for almost 2 years. The consent of the council as the sole shareholder of Peterborough Limited is required in order for the company to take certain actions. The company have requested consent for a number of actions, including continuing the appointment of an interim chief operating officer, the provision of HR services via a specialist company, authorising day-to-day recruitment requests, appointing an interim new senior leadership team member and an interim organisational structure, and finally the appointment of James Collinridge as the chair of Peterborough Limited Board. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Councillor Katie Cole.
Thank you, Leader, and through you. I just want to ask, as it talks about HR services within this contract, how much input have the unions had into the design and supporting workers as they transition from Peterborough Limited back under Peterborough City Council control, please?
Leader, may I answer?
Please.
Thank you. I'm going to say the unions have been involved since day one. They've played an active role. They've helped shape us to where we are. So the short answer to yours is from day one they've played, and they're happy with the way we are at the moment. So unless Adrian, you want to, or Charlotte, you want to share any more information on that, but from day one they've always been on board.
Okay. Anyone else want to bring anything? No? So I'd just like to commend and actually thank Charlotte and the team who have tirelessly worked on this for the last 2 years. This really was an aspiration of this administration. And also I'd like to thank my Cabinet member, Councillor Angus Ellis, who has been passionate about insourcing and his portfolio as well. I'd like to place that on record, because I think that this has made a great team working in consensus with the officers around the table, having a look at the variables and parameters that involve insourcing of Peterborough Limited and those services too. So I think that this is a great achievement on this cross-party coalition's watch. I'd like to congratulate everybody who's supported this. It really has been an achievement and a half. And we alluded to it in last Cabinet as well, but also I think that this forms a fundamental part of it. So I think I'd like to thank everybody around the table. And on that note, in order to formalise this, it's really important that I'd like to ask Cabinet members' consensus on approving the recommendations under the recommendation header on page 304 of the agenda pack. So members, are we content to agree the recommendations, please? Thank you very much. Thank you, Charlotte. That now leads us on to agenda item number 20, which is leases and property documents in respect of leisure libraries and archive sites. This item can be found on pages 315 to 328 of the agenda. Councillor Zamir Ali, Cabinet Members for Community, Poverty and Public Health. Please, would you like to introduce the report?
Thank you, and through you. So I was slightly confused with the wording, so I do apologise for walking over. And following the Cabinet decision in March 2025 to move culture and the cultural and the leisure services from Peterborough Limited to Peterborough, further approval is required or requested for Peterborough Limited and the council to enter into a lease agreement. This will enable the relevant services to benefit from the financial services, savings, whilst ensuring that these services are delivered in the most cost-effective manner for the council. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Is there anybody that would like to raise anything on this agenda item at all? No? None at all? Yep, just to raise the fact that there's a discernible, this has been a real exercise, and pointing out that whilst we've had a lot of public interest in this as well, in terms of our leisure and library services, as well as press interest, it's really important to differentiate what we mean between a building and a service, isn't it? And our consultation lays that out, doesn't it? How the use of our leisure and library facilities has evolved over the ages, and how we also have to progress with the times to make sure that we're meeting the demands of how people like to use our services. So I'd like to thank officers as well for all their work that they've put into this. And on that note, I'd like to ask members to approve the recommendations as set out under the recommendations header on pages 315 to 316 of the agenda pack. Members, are we content to agree the recommendation? Thank you. Thank you very much, and thank you, officers. Well, that brings us to the end of our Cabinet meeting, which possibly is the last Cabinet meeting before the 7th of May. I'd like to thank all members, cross-party, around this table for being part of this administration that has made some fundamental decisions to shape our city. It might be the last one, we don't know yet, but until now, this is the last one. And I'd really like to take the opportunity to thank our officers, our executive team, and also Cabinet members at what you have done to offer and shape the lives of people around this city. I really would, from the bottom of my heart. So thank you very much for your support. And officers, thank you very much for supporting my administration. And I'd like that to be placed on record. Thank you. Good evening, and I hope you all have a safe journey home.